Consistency built the growth, and whether you're consistent in getting yourself out there door knocking, if it's radio, if it is joining business networking groups, is it sporting groups, what I would drive as my success is just getting up, rinse, repeat.
Welcome back. Today, we're speaking with Scott MacMillan. So Scott is a team leader in the Edmonton market. So he does 125 million in sales each and every year, about 181 transactions. He has 4 agents. He has 2 support staff, and he has a background in hospitality we'll be diving in, and a very strong background in investing, real estate investing as well. So we're going to be talking about investing. We're going to be talking about how he became successful, and we're going to be talking about the overall real estate market as well. Scott, it's great to be here with you.
Mark, pleasure. Thank you so much for the introduction and the kind words. It makes me feel like I should be stepping into something that I not necessarily can fill those shoes, but I'm always trying to do more and be better.
Well, it's pretty cool to see, most agents get out of the business within 5 years, right? And so to be, right at that top tier, there's something special about you. You've done something, incredible. It's like making it to the NHL of real estate, right? Especially because barrier to entry is pretty easy to get into real estate as well. There's a lot of real estate agents. I think we're at there's like over 100,000 real estate agents across Canada and like 2 million in the US. Is that number right? What do you think, of over 100,000 in Canada?
I would, to be honest with you, I don't know what our Canadian numbers look like, and I should know even where our base is, but there is a lot. And unfortunately, the barrier to entry is there, but it doesn't necessarily set people up for success. And I think our attrition rates are even lower than what they are across the US. And it's a tough business to stay in.
Yeah, for sure. And the Toronto real estate board's like the biggest in the world. There's about 70,000 on that board. So the rest, we'll just say just over 100, but it's pretty incredible. So let's dive into your backstory here, Scott. What got you into real estate? I know you're in hospitality before. You're in the oil fields as well. You were, serving on that side. So give us a little bit about your backstory and then what got you into real estate.
Yeah, for sure. So it's funny journey, if you will. 3rd generation real estate. So originally my grandfather was in insurance and real estate. They were, I wouldn't say newly immigrated to Canada, but newish to Canada. My grandfather was there. My dad started in the business. He's 55 years deep in the business. Started in hotel, motel, and then the commercial arena. And then eventually, as we stepped out, when I was a kid, if you could have asked me what I was going to do, with the exception, I was probably climbing a tree, a roof, or bouncing off the walls because I was fairly high energy. I always said I was going to be involved in real estate, whether it would buy, sell, or build. And so the journey kind of started in that space when I was younger. But as we were growing up, my father is also a guy that was supportive and encouraged us to get different and history of employers, experiences, figure out where you want to land and what is happening around. That's when I kicked into, originally it was a sales kind of background, whether it was hospitality, I was a travel agent. I did some of the fun jobs where I lived in the mountains and I was a ski bum. At the same time, I was trying to always better my communication skills. And then subsequently, going to college, I took marketing at a college here in Edmonton called NAIT. And when I was going to college, the lifestyle of hospitality didn't necessarily pay the bills. I came from high school with the intention of, again, this is a grandeur. I'm going to go out, graduate, buy a house, and figure it out. I actually told my dad that I am going to buy a car or a house, and I wanted the car. It was I don't know what, 19 whatever, Volkswagen GTI, and I didn't want to buy a house. My dad, being in real estate, sat back and he said, okay, you owe me $2,000 for deposit and here's your house. And at that moment, there was the jaw drop and reality of like, okay, the excitement is there, but then you have to figure out how to pay for it. So this was in between graduating high school, before starting college, at the same time trying to see where I could break even. And there was a lot of days where I was chewing on Mr. Noodles just to get by. At the same time, that was how it got me started in real estate. In between, I started doing the oil field. And in Alberta, even if you're in real estate, you're in oil. It doesn't matter what fashion you are, everybody's affected. And that's the blood that pumps through the heart. And so seismic was where I was playing in the oil field, and I did that through college. And so through summer, Christmas, all of those things, I'd go off, work for a few months, make enough money, to also pay for my mortgage at that point, not rent, mortgage. And then I was trying to get renters in with myself to just subsequently live. From there, it was going to Jasper. I was working for Fairmont now, but back in the day, it used to be Canadian Pacific, and jumped into hospitality world. It was beyond good. We were biking, skiing, hiking, and I would work for 4 to 6 hours a day. I was existing, and my dad, after about a year, came back and said, "Okay, I won't use the words he threw on the table, but basically, are you ready to come off and try a career?" And at that moment, 25 years ago, started in real estate. It was just myself and my dad from that point, and it was an assistant kind of position initially, and then we just evolved. There was scenarios where we grew. We had an assistant. We kind of stayed base level, and my dad was always a higher producer, but he was not necessarily a systems driven individual. He was incredibly good at networking. He was an unbelievably good salesman, but he was the guy that would be the hunter. So hunter gatherer, go out, do the transactions, get to a position. And when I came in, we started kind of transitioning and getting a little more growth modular in the background with team office manager. From there, my brother came in the business, and my two sisters actually followed suit. One sister has since left. She's moved to another town, Canmore, Alberta, which is a fairly bougie mountain kind of spot. But then I'm still working with three of my family members, and then we have a couple of staff here, and on the story goes and continues to go in circles.
Amazing. You said something that was interesting in regards to the oil, whether you're in the business or not. If you're living there, it flows through it's the blood that pumps into the heart of any industry in Alberta. Can you talk a little bit about that? I think that's really interesting.
Well, just the cycle inside of Alberta, where we've historically, Edmonton is a blue collar environment, so very family focused. It was worker bees that come out here, etc. And then with the refineries, that if I look on my window, people can look at Mountainscape. I can look at refineries right here, and that's what continues to be the driver for influx of people coming in, whether it's migration, job opportunities. To this day, there's through my entire life, there's been people that have been flying in and out of the province for work. Fort McMurray is, I'll call this a short drive, but it's a 5 hour drive north. And so that's where the tar sands are. But there's a lot of things that exist here. And if the oil field is strong, real estate is strong. So is everything else that follows suit with. And so I joke that I am in the oil business that happens to give a set of keys at the end of the day. And largely with our environment, when the oil is great, then you can feel things that are coming up. Right now, we haven't had a whole bunch of increased growth over the last few years. We've had some bumps. Obviously, our 2006-7 was interesting, as you guys shared, and were able to ride a wave. Then we had a fairly aggressive shift. We had a little run up in 2014, and then we've kind of bumbled around in the background. And right now, in spite of what's happening in our country, Edmonton is still doing fairly well, and there is still an influx. Oil is it's decent. I would say that there's some trade tariffs and some things there, discussions that we are trying to figure out with our brothers. But yeah, by and large, we are in oil, and when things are good, everybody shares in it. And as we are in this, there's a bit of a lull right now, but there's going to be pipelines and things here that I believe will continue to see growth. And with the numbers that are coming inside of the city, is getting stronger and stronger.
It's an interesting conversation because as a real estate agent, through the years, I didn't really hone in on what drives real estate values. And this is where I started over the last number of years. I started really diving into, what are the key drivers to, that are going to, where can you invest that is about to boom, right? What are the key factors that is about to boom, and why do real estate prices go up? And you said it earlier. You had said, if oil does well, if the oil industry does well, real estate values go well. And so it's really interesting to kind of dive in. It's like, employment. So if oil does well, then they hire more people and they spend more money and they're making good money. If people have more money in their pocket, then they're going to attract more people to want to move there, and more people moving into an area, you're going to actually have more buyers, and that's going to drive more demand and all the rest of it, right? And I think that that's such a good conversation to have with, yeah, I think, and I like to kind of sit there for a minute with you, because it's like, you got employment, you got affordability as well, which is another one, population, which brings population growth as well. So, can you talk a little bit about that, and what you've seen? It comes down to values, like why is it that a certain market like Edmonton is like employment would be such a strong factor with overall values?
Well, the the metrics in behind all of it is complicated, as you said, whether it's migration, employment, job numbers, what opportunities are coming inside of there. I mean, you can cut it any way you want. There's supply and demand. And so that's going to supersede anything that you think the market is going to tell you. The supply is low, the demand continues to come in with oil and with, I think, the stability inside of what we have now. Oil is still a little bit low, in my opinion. I'm always going to say that. And if it was $300 a barrel, I would tell you it's still trading low, because it's obviously the lifeblood that keeps us going inside of the province, which doesn't hurt our country's actual GDP. With the overall marketplace in oil as it sits right now, there is also the long term effects that are going to come around. There is a number of factors, facilities, upgraders, refineries that are all coming in here. And so the job opportunity. And with job opportunity now gives the individual, that's whether you're new to the country and or you're just in an environment where there's some more hostile weather situations, and or if you look out east where we have a lot of people that are dependent on whether it's forestry, fishing, etc. This one has a year-round opportunity to make a good wage, and at the same time it's a living wage where you're able to come in here, make X amount of dollars, still buy a house, still have food, clothing, and shelter, which everybody, again, it starts at that pyramid. But as we are continuing to see, there is a psychology that goes with it, and people are continuing to have a look at it and get the mojo. The crazy thing is the headline says things are good, oil is good, everybody wants to go and spend money. The next headline, and the headlines that are playing with right now, and partially due to just summer seasonal slowdown and a shift, and we do feel a significant seasonal shift. We have come out of the gates, 60% of the market's going to be transacted prior to June. Our July and August are going to slow down, and inventory picks up. So inventory picks up, supply, demand. We have the supply that's increasing. However, with the headlines that are putting some negative downward pressure, I should say, or negative pressure inside of Canada, largely are focused to some of the major centers that are going to be further east and west, and they've had a good run. The fundamentals for where we are right now continue to be strengthening, and we're strong. It's just a scenario of not listening to the headline, but reading the paper. And then with what we have going on for opportunity and growth, there's jobs, there's the space here where you can come and grow inside of what I would describe as a major center as well. We are a major city. We have well over 1 million people. We have all the amenities that go with it, and so just trying to make sure that we are proud of what we have going on and the opportunities that could come for a newcomer coming in.
Yeah, no, that's good. I think you nailed something as well. It's like people, it's like confidence in the market and certainty. I think as soon as you had mentioned, like, you brothers, I've said that as well. It's like you get the big brother and the little brother with the US
Yeah.
and in Canada, right? And so as soon as there's some certainty in regards to the relationship between the two and the trade with tariffs and whatnot, I think that's going to be overall very bullish for the real estate market. There's a lot of people just sitting on the sidelines, just waiting right now.
Yeah.
And I think that certainty will drive, further demand, because there's a lot of people that want to move. Like, we're talking with them. It's like, I'm just going to wait. It's like, uh, you have the conversation there, but there's a lot of people out there that are doing that. And I think that's going to be very healthy for the market. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think you're 100% on point. The no decision is a decision. And the
Yeah.
individuals that are able to make a decision on what's the historical space, if you have 70% of the information, make the decision, and then the rest of the pieces that will follow, and there's opportunities that will come of it. And there is a lot of people that want to sit back, and the scenario is, if you're coming into the marketplace and knowing what the fundamentals are, it says that it's going to be a good spot for everybody to grow. And if you are at that fear based kind of situation, it becomes analysis paralysis where you stop. And then, unfortunately, that's kind of the scenario that slows everybody down. And then you throw in some catalysts and headlines and things that we are uncontrollable, that are, again, whether it's a tariff, whether there's some uncertainty inside a trade, and then you look at interprovincially, et cetera. But where we are in Edmonton, there's opportunity if we look all outside of those spaces and say that, you know what, where we are and what we have, you're going to see things in a good fashion.
Do you think Alberta, like in the rest of Canada, will open up so that we can actually get and export our oil? Or do you think that's going to be like a tough road to go down?
Uh, it's been a tough road. It will continue to be a tough road. I think the turmoil inside of what's happening and where we are with our biggest trade partner, aka US, it's going to make us stand up straight. Are we ever going to be interdependent? Stay tuned. I'm not going to answer that question. I try to avoid the political kind of in between whether we're going to go towards the US. The critical mass has to get our oil to tide waters. So the reality is, I think that the instability as it's sitting right now is going to open up a lot of those opportunities just out of sheer necessity. And I think it's going to let the Canadians as a whole look inside and say, okay, well, we have this incredible resource. We are currently selling it at a discount or at places where we're not even servicing or selling to our own country inside of it. And so if we can now get it to waters and, you know, have the pipelines created, we are one province away and there's an opportunity for them to win and us to win, and as a country, everybody wins, well, then yes, I would obviously hope that's going to be the case. I think it's still going to be a bit of a road. However, the eternal optimist is what I am, where I think it's going to be shorter than longer. But yeah,
I was listening to this one economist. He was saying like what we sell oil for is like 1/30th is I think it's like 1/30th of its value. Then if we could actually get it to water and refine it and do it internally, like the amount of wealth that we can create in this country is like it's is massive
yes,
if we could just kind of get over ourselves. So maybe this whole thing with back and forth with the US, maybe it like you said, maybe it forces us to you know get over some of these interprovincial roadblocks, open it up. And Canada, I think Canada can be one of the richest countries in the world with all the resources. It's just it seems like we're just not getting access to it. What are your thoughts on that?
yeah. I mean, the conversation that everybody wants to relate or pull towards would be like a Norway scenario. And if you look at what we would do with our own minerals and looking from, you know, again, the global perspective of what opportunity could come about, our trade partner, biggest trade partner, US. However, if we look on a scenario where we're not trying to figure out where you're hamstringing the next person, here's an opportunity for us to refine it. The the other conversation, and the media does a good job of trying to see where is it dirty oil, is it heavy crude, but they don't look at the other aspects about all of the other refining opportunities that come with the heavy oil and all of the other spaces. If we were to utilize everything from a manufacturing perspective and look at it from in-house, whether it's North America, Canadian, US, and have everybody win, there's certainly enough for everybody to grow and capitalize on. But the scenario and you know the game of cards or bluff that's happening right now is over my pay grade. I can promise
Ugh.
that.
Yeah, because it's interesting. If we created really clean refineries in Canada, we process it super clean, right? And then we ship it from there. It's actually that would be actually better for the environment than having some countries that are just processing very dirty oil, and it's like we're buying it back or that's getting shipped out and being used, and that's actually more of a impact to the overall planet. If,
Yeah.
right, so it's interesting to kind of hear different perspectives.
As you
And
peel the layer of the onion back in that environment, it's one of those things where it gives you encouragement because there's opportunity for growth.
yeah,
Everybody
exactly.
can win, but then the next breath, it is so deflating because you look at it where a scenario where I mean, there's multiple trains and not multiple, I mean thousands of trains that are bringing the stuff to the U.S., refining it, cleaning it up, selling it back to us at a premium, and or we're getting it on the outside going over by a cruise ship, same scenario. They're taking it, refining it, selling it back to us. And we have all of the capabilities to manufacture and actually do it in-house for all of us to benefit without the logistics. And if you look how the majority of the stuff is, but truck and train, and again, between safety, between efficiency, et cetera, efficiency is just mind blowing, right? But yeah, trying to appease people with borders, and then as the land goes through, there's a tricky puzzle to be solved.
It's For me, it's interesting. We support the food bank in our areas. When like we have a partner charity in each city we're in, and I was speaking with the president of the food bank, and she was telling me that usage this year is actually triple of what it was compared to the COVID
Yeah,
during COVID is triple now. And so like the cost of living has gone up. I mean, with inflation and, and the overall economy right now where it's at, and a lot of people are struggling. And I just, man, my heart is, for Canada is just wants to do so like there's so much opportunity there, and so that's where my hope is that whenever you go through any sort of major challenge, generally there's something good coming from it,
for
and
sure.
that's where my hope is for this as well. And it's interesting, you and I as like team leaders, we're like something good is coming from this. Is like that's the optimist side of it, right? My hope is that's actually going to play out in this scenario, and we kind of and Canadians are the net winner with it. So
It's a funny space because I'm again, as you say, eternal optimist.
yeah,
However, in every circumstance, good things will come, but there's a game of thirds. Third of the time, it's good. Third of the time, it's not good. And third of the time, it's great. Which one are we going to be at? And then how much time do you have for things to cycle through? And when it does, it's like I told you.
yeah, exactly. It's interesting you say a third. So one of my mentors, he said, the market, it's you get three okay years followed by three great years followed by three very poor years, right? And
I'm
so
talking personal, business, life. Because yes,
well, all the above, probably, right? But he's actually referring to like the overall real estate market,
yep.
and it's interesting. It's like, okay, that's been about 3 years now, and it's like, okay, that's good encouragement. We're gonna have some, three okay years, and this is all cyclical, right? And so that I think that in itself is really encouraging as well. It's like it all goes through real estate. Real estate overall goes through markets and cycles, and
Mhm.
hopefully, I mean that plays out when it comes to the economy as well, and affordability and all the rest of it. So
The tricky part is watching what you're going to see in the headlines. And again, we are under the impression of what is the headline and or the news story, and depending on if it's left, right, et cetera, doesn't matter. But there's this persona where it's like, again, everything is good over there. Same inside of Canada, where again, we're okay. Trade wars are putting some pressure on us, but things are okay. But I'm positive it'll be the same scenario. The utilization with the food banks and or the services that are out there are becoming higher and higher, and that middle category is the one that is feeling the biggest pressure. And same thing, the cost of everything across the board has gone up. And so if the wages have stayed the same or in some circumstances declined, and or there's some unemployment and or situations that make it even tougher, but the cost of your jug of milk that was $4 to $6 to $8, and that's going to be your steady staple, and that's just the new normal. At some point, you hope it's got to give and have that kind of influx come back and balance out.
yeah, 100%. Okay, I could keep talking about this, but let's flip a little bit more into the granular of the real estate transaction. So when you guys started growing at the very beginning, what was it that how did you generate business? Because this is a big question real estate agents, have. It's like, how do I get business? So how did you do it?
It's a funny thing, and the question that you've been asked more than once, I've been asked more than once. The the simple answer is consistency. Consistency builds the growth, and whether you're consistent in getting yourself out there door knocking, if it's radio, if it is joining business networking groups, is it sporting groups, the space that would call or what I would drive as my success is just getting up, rinse, repeat. And the amount of people that get bounced around and start on a business and then they'll have a run. There's often a honeymoon phase when somebody gets fresh into the business. I experienced it where I came in. I was young when I did come in, but there's a handful of friends that were out there similar age. And then you want to be around with people that you like, know, and trust. And what I consistently did was would go out there and I would knock on those doors. I would do those open houses. I would look for those opportunities. And I did it far longer than a lot of the other people do in the industry. And then as we were continuing to grow and we would layer up, and whether it was simple newspaper ads, and then when the internet or the emails that 25 years ago, I was like, I guess I can use an email. I had two-way pager that I thought was pretty hot shit. Turns out that it certainly wasn't the tech that we have access to now. But you're able to continue to evolve. And what we would do is we would start with something and we would finish it, because what you interpret and or expect to happen in a short period of time often doesn't occur. And so if we would commit to a marketing initiative, we've done a lot of community event based items, sponsorship, family teams, etc. But it would be a scenario where we do it for the long haul. And then as you're planting the seeds, it takes a while. You're planting trees, not flowers. And so it takes a while for those to actually sprout out. And then with that, the part that I think continues to see growth inside of our business and in what is going on. And I'm 25 years in the business, and we've been very fortunate to do a reasonable amount of transactions. And or if you look at my office, the scenario for the things that fuel me are going to be family-based, experience-based, fun-based. I have a couple of plaques that sit on the wall and usually are underneath my desk and or get covered in dust. But the experiences that are going to be with everybody in my business growing. And then even when it is peak, and we're in a busy time right now, we're coming off one of our strongest starts of the year, and we're currently at 193 transactions year to date. But the difference is I'm still going in and consistently doing the things that got me started as of January 1. And I have my routine that is, I'm a fairly early riser, but I still, to this day, with the business that we have, I will still do a handwritten letter. I will still do a Facebook message and or an Instagram message and or a goofy text message when it's somebody's birthday and or what's important to them. And I do that in a fashion, you have to be top of mind in order to continue to stay a part of mine. And then B, it's also a genuine interest where if I can relate on my level and I can adjust my marketing and or communication skills on how it works for me, I'm going to communicate with my people. And then we just continue to build that tribe on both sides. And so that's been the biggest observation I've seen is where you have the peaks and valleys. And then as you're starting to hit this peak, you stop doing the things that got you to the position where you're growing. And then it's also a scenario, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, 12 months into the business, there is the burnout factor. And I don't know what the statistic is as of late, but it's 90% don't see their first 24 months in real estate. And then the average realtor right now is 0.6 houses per month. And so if I look at that space after you graduate costs, licensing, vehicle, cards, marketing, et cetera, you're working for a McDonald's wage. And the people there that get discouraged and or don't put the time in and expect a hard month to now all of a sudden blossom into this marketing machine that's going to spit out there. And or with this video where people are saying, well, here's the next evolution. Are you comfortable on the camera? Can you go on video? And that's been a conversation that's been 5 years deep. But it's amazing how many people are now just saying like, oh, I should really get on camera. And or it's like, well, I should really look at integrating some chat GPT and some AI resources in there. And it's like, yeah, you probably should. And there's the opportunity for you to now get ahead and or level up to maintain where you can now grow, and seeing how people can actually continue to do exactly that. And much the same as myself, my world and where we've continued to grow is just that consistency in some of the small tasks that roll through the day. My dad, although he is old school in space, he's still the guy there that picks up the phone call. He is belly to belly. So if he has his networking guys that he's doing business with, you may not get a Facebook message, but you'll get a call on a Friday afternoon to come for a beer. That's how we worked.
Yeah. The belly to belly. That's pretty consistent that in conversations, right? Now, you had said some things that you do consistently. You had said like a Facebook message, like birthday message there, connecting it with them. Note cards as well. Is there a certain number that you do? And is there anything else that are part of kind of your main things that you do on a daily basis?
So should do and do. My goal is 5 cards a day. I think 5 cards a day. I'll go in days where I'll write 10 and do it 10 cards for the week, and it's awesome. And then I'll go like I have the last 2 weeks, and just being honest, I've done very little, but you hit this burnout phase. And so I know that for myself, watching my energy levels, I need a bit of a recovery environment that is going to let me now recharge and get back to the fundamentals. The space is, I try not to make it to the systematic level that you're going to get the same message. Hi, Mark, it's my birthday today, blah, blah, blah. I try to have a scenario where it's going to be authentic for myself. And that is a space. And my delivery method is I'm a bit of a jackass, so I want to make sure somebody's gonna smile, and at the same time, there's people there you could do that with, and then it is a text message. Sometimes that will be a scenario where right now I'm doing Facebook because it's just a space where I can connect with a lot of people. But the individuals, and not everybody's in socials, but the individuals that aren't there, I'll still jump on. We have a Buffini program that we'll use that'll give us reminders for birthdays. And then it'll be just to pick up a phone call. And or if I can't get a hold of them, I like to make sure they can hear my voice. And so I'll send a video message, text them, or a video message and email them. Hey, Mark, how you doing? Hope you're doing fantastic. I see you got a new dog. Life is great. Whatever the case is, let's catch up. Hope all is well. Happy birthday. Great. But I try to make sure that that is part of it. And then the scenario of making sure that you are not forgotten in this business. There'll be little events and things there that we try to do outside of. So we're always trying to figure out what we're going to be as the realtor or real estate experts in the city. So we're giving them information at the same time, whether it's an ice cream event or whether it's a community event and or a scenario where we can come together. That's going to be a situation that is important to us or some of the groups that we would support. We have a couple of charities as well. Be Brave Ranch is a facility that rehabilitates kids that have had some inappropriate things happen at young ages and rips your heart out. My mom is somebody who runs a sweatshop and she's the only worker, but she makes quilts and she makes hundreds of quilts for Casa House. And so that's part of it. We'll do an event. We pay for the material. She takes these quilts, makes them for women who are going through some tough situations. And so whether it is a support of community involvement, whether it is a scenario of I'm going to buy you an ice cream or a coffee, and or we just want to make sure we're connecting in an environment that becomes authentic to us and doesn't feel too generic. Because at the end of the day, and I'm guilty for it as well, and I'm not sure what your world is like, but probably you get one or two emails or phone calls and then it just falls down the list and becomes generic and or too automated. You lose that connection point, which is tricky.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's good. So being top of mind. It's interesting that I read this book and they say, and the stats say that people take about 1 to 2 years by the time they think about a move and to actually making the move happen. But they only select they make their decision on who they select within 72 hours. And so what's interesting there is that being top of mind is very important during those 72 hours because they want somebody that's convenient. And if you're top of mind, dripping the texts, like the birthdays, the events, it's like you're the go-to. You're the one that's providing value. And it's like, it just makes sense. But if you're not doing that and you're not top of mind during those 72 hours, there's like 10 other realtors out there that are wooing and roam, they could be doing that as well. So it's a really interesting thing to think about that's happening in the background. And that's like a motivator to maintain your clients. Cause just because, as they say, like a quarter of the people will use the same realtor that they bought with. It's like, but I think it was like 75 to 80% of them said that they would use the realtor again. It's just that they forgot it. They even forgot who they used. So in a lot of cases, right? Because the realtor didn't follow up.
Love them and leave them. That's the thing.
Yeah.
There's two cycles. There's a honeymoon phase. Everything is great. I'll tell you how much your place is going to list for. And then all of a sudden the market decides to change, et cetera. Then you turn it into Grim Reaper. But the market doesn't lie. You can give that information. And then after you've had the honeymoon phase, then you had the flip side of it where you just lost. And unfortunately, it's so common where after the transaction, that's such an important phase to make sure you can interact and let them know that you're still a part of their journey, whatever that looks like.
It's a good conversation to have because it becomes very easy not to do. It's easy to do. It's easy not to do. It's actually sexier to go after like and new business, go hunt, pay for leads, right? Versus like you got somebody there that knows 200 people. They know like 15 people that are gonna be moving this year, and it's like at the end of the day, you got an opportunity to reach out and connect and be top of mind. So when they're talking amongst their friends, they're gonna name you, right? But that's not as sexy. You had nailed something as well. It's about consistency as well, right? Doing it 1 month is one thing, but doing it consistently over time is another thing. Is that's where you get compounding as well.
So I was watching an interesting video. There's a couple of guys I follow in our industry, and by a couple I mean a lot. But just trying to figure out where your audience is, where you're going to connect inside of them, and then also everybody's trying to figure out the balance and whether it is on the socials, whether it's videos, whether you're trying to interact, and how you're going to find that space. But then also you're trying to see where you don't become robotic, and then what is the balance of who you are going to be. Are you Scott MacMillan? Are you Mark Faris? Are you Joe Schmo? And then also reminding people, hey, this is what I do. This is who I am. But I'm also, not too busy for that referral. Or hey, I'm also a realtor. And you're trying to have it where you're not going to overly flood that opportunity, but remind people. And I've been guilty of it as well, where it's like, oh, geez, you look busy there. I didn't know if you wanted the referral. And again, shame on me. But there's environments where it's like, especially some of my closer networks, they're like, oh man, you're full. I'm like, this is what I do for a living. Do me a favor. Like I'm not too busy for the referral. I may have said I'm too busy to go for that beer, but there are opportunities for me to come off and we have a team dynamic that if I am at capacity, I got somebody else who can help out. So don't forget us.
Yeah, no, that's really good. That's a good one. It's like, oh, I'm so busy. You tell your friends, I'm just so busy right now. It's like I'm never going to send them a referral, right? That's like one. Another one is like, oh, the market. There's no inventory. It's like, well, if I'm thinking about buying a house, I'm probably not going to reach out. It's like, oh, there's no. I guess we're not going to move, honey, because there's no inventory, right?
And that
Like,
comment can just crush everything. And I've
yeah,
had it. I'm sure you have as well, where you want to be the authoritative voice in the real estate world and be able to say with confidence. And there's times where there's deal fatigue. I'll tell somebody if I'm tired. However, but the reality is what our fundamental supply and demand is here. This is what we have going on. Here's the opportunity. And on up markets, there's opportunity. And it's good because the headlines say so. When there is a little bit of turmoil and the downward pressure as well, those are ones I think that the seasoned agent is able to really stand out. And that becomes a big attrition factor for the real estate market here. Sometimes I'm going to tell you not what I want to tell you. I'll just tell you the truth. The market doesn't lie. And if you're able to translate that into a tone and or an understanding that is looking out for their best interest, that is always the goal. And I still struggle with, there's times where you'll fall in love with somebody in their situation, whether it is, again, there's the move up where we have family opportunity and growth and the next biggest, latest, greatest. But there's the flip side of it where we've got job loss, we've got death, we've got divorce, we've got those other ones that you're sitting down there and you have to have a critical mind, remove the emotion and say, this is what we need to do to move forward and give that guidance with confidence. And in that space saying, hey, listen, this is not what I want to tell you. This is what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. But let's all come together and make sure we can get an opportunity for your goal, which is to buy or sell and whatever the situation is.
yeah, that's really important to show your confidence because people they don't want like somebody that's wishy-washy. They want somebody that's confident, somebody that's like humble at the same time, but somebody that will say, yeah, authority, can communicate authority in a way that doesn't come off as bragging. I think is a really big one. So 100%, I think that's really important. What about so you had said you do a couple there's a couple events that you had mentioned. How many events a year would you do, and what kind of events? You'd given a couple of examples earlier.
So there's an arena center that we sponsor, and so we'll do a couple of different events up there. There's a Halloween painted skate. So when they're taking the ice off the arena, or kids can come out, their families come in, we give hot chocolate, bring everybody out there. It's a paid for event. One of the main sponsors is us, and then that'll just be more of a community building situation. There is times where we will go into different. So there's a Highland gathering inside of Strathcona County, and we brought in a park or a popcorn machine. We would sell popcorn or have donations toward popcorn, and then we would match the donations that goes towards some of the different events or the facilities that are inside of Strathcona County. That last one was for the Be Brave Ranch. Then there's other opportunities where it will be a pop-up where all of a sudden we'll just decide we got great weather next week. We're going to do an ice cream event. And so we'll go to a local vendor out here. A big thing for us is supporting local. And so whether we know the vendors and or they're just inside of our community. And we'll go through the city, but we'll have a look at it and see where we can get, here's ice cream, bring your family, bring your friends, and literally just jump in, grab a cup of ice cream, say hello, and then you can carry on. And we're trying to target it for a quarterly basis. The next one we're doing is mini golf. And so another friend of ours owns a pitch and putt or driving range, mini golf. And so we're going to do a client event here in September, and just trying to make it less about real estate. When you show up there, you're not going to have me giving out business cards. It's me sitting there and reconnecting, and then having that opportunity to say hi. And then a big part of that as well is ensuring that after they've showed up, then you do that reconnection space. Thank you. Thank you for thinking on me. Don't forget I'm a realtor. At the same time, it was great seeing you and your family. And then again, it just does that kind of scenario where it puts the bow on the present.
So good. Yeah, it's that belly to belly side of it. It's giving excuses to have conversations and be top of mind, because that's what you want to be. Within the 72 hours are going to make a decision. You want to be there. That's so great. And I know it's an investment as well, to do it consistently, but over time, like we've seen it through the years where like we'll do like a movie day, and then we rent at the cinema, and then we have like a chapel farm. It's kind of like a pumpkin patch near us, and we get a couple thousand people out. And it's funny because through the years, we've seen people that with small kids, and they get a photo and they come, right. They get to take a photo, and then the kids through the years, they all grow up, and then all they want to get their annual photo. So like those little things, like if you can share as part of that their family and their growth and be part of that, that to me is way better than investing in PPC or Google ads. It's like that's like the highest ROI at the end of the day. It's easy not to do it as well.
Yeah, the funny thing, and like, even with our world where we go in this space where it is so important, but then the reality is, part of it is I have a coach as well, that when we start to get complacent, I'll have somebody will smack me in the back of the head, and then give that little reminder of like, what do you have coming up? What are you doing? And then when there is times where the time is just full, like you don't have any more capacity, we'll come together as a team. We'll do Popeyes. There's some things there where we'll go drop off Christmas wrap. I'll go drop off poinsettias, whether it is giving Hershey kisses for Valentine's, whatever the case is. And now it's a scenario where I don't necessarily have to create a big event, but I can load my car up. A big thing for us right now, actually, it will be coming up, will be windshield washing fluid, because we got another month or two of some sunshine, and then we've got Lord knows what, and it's going to turn from bug degreaser on your windshield to all of a sudden we need de-icer. And so you're going to go drop off windshield washing fluid. And so those little pop by scenarios become a thing, and then just making sure that you're able to interact on a more consistent basis.
Got it. What about okay? So you're speaking with a new lead, and they'd like to book an appointment. So what are kind of your high level steps that you would do for taking like a new lead and then converting it to, say, like a signed agreement, say on the buyer and the seller side? Is there any kind of formal presentation that you go over? Or do you just kind of have a conversation, then go through to the next step? Can you take us through that?
Yeah, yes. It's actually funny. So the timing on this one, my consistent space is, you want to try to develop rapport. At the end of the day, you have a phone call, you have an email, you have a text message, and you have 3 to 5 seconds to see if there's going to be any level of connection on either front. And it's, the reality is it's short. And I can even tell myself whether I'm emulating this voice, but I want to make sure that I'm listening to what they're saying. I have an opportunity to meet with them. I'm going to ask, are they working with anybody? Have they had anybody else sit down and actually share the buyer's presentation? And I try not to say, are you under buyer's agreement? But has anybody shared the buyer's presentation, would be one of the first questions I've asked. At that moment, I sit down and say, okay, well, here's the process that we do. This is what I do for a living. And in the environment that we are able to work together, I just like to be fully transparent with everything that I do. And if with that, when we meet, I would like the opportunity to become your realtor. I don't do that every time on the phone, but you can tell when there's an opportunity. If there's a rapport, if there's a situation, a price point, I'm going to ask the high level stuff. Once I actually physically meet with somebody one time, then I go back and reset and make sure that you have somebody who has the ability to, again, are they qualified? What are the situations? And then I'll guide them through the buying process and making sure that there's a buyer's agreement and a level of commitment that will stay with myself. there was a situation on the weekend, and an individual that was working on, he's looking at 6 properties over the weekend. I was the first one he had to look at. And I sat back and so asked the questions on the phone, not sign up with anybody. Nobody sat down with the buyer's presentation. Okay, let's meet. Meet him at 9 o'clock Saturday morning, go through the first property. And I sat back, and nice people. Part of it for me as well, and it's not from it's a learning position, but I can tell who I would connect with. And so there's people there that I'll sit back and say, actually, I really did enjoy meeting you. And it has to come authentic. There's people that I can also say, thank you for your time, but I can tell I'm not a connection. And, or I will say, I have a team of people that certainly can help you out. And so there's a door 2 and a door 3, but this environment, nice people, new to the city, nice. And I sat back and said, I want to be a realtor. I promise I'll work for you. Here's what I do, how I do it. Full disclosure, this is what's going on. You're looking at these additional properties. I'd love to show them to you. Would that be something you'd be interested in? And this is the reasons why I've been doing it for ABC, and why I would work as hard as I can for you. I do work with a team as well. And so there's environments where I will bring that initial lead in, and then I'll put it to a buyer's agent. But at the same time, I'm still going to be having my hand in that transaction the whole way. At the end of it, they shook my hand. Things are great. Now we have a new buyer that's coming in to Sherwood Park, that's going to go through the processes. But it was just a scenario of asking that question. And the funny thing is, the amount of people that I've had on the flip side of it, where I've been the 6th home they've looked at, and nobody has asked any of those questions. And unfortunately, that becomes the Achilles heel, because people are afraid of rejection. And I'd rather have that rejection right out of the gates. Am I your guy? Can we be a fit? Yes or no? Shake my hand, and then we can work through it. And or if it's a no, great. Next.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Yeah. Asking the question, I think, is so good. It's so interesting that I wonder where, like, a lot of these agents that there's fear there. And I even think when I look back in my career, there's definitely times that, I passed actually asking for the order.
Yep.
Uh, it's interesting. I've found that if you really believe in that next step of actually bringing them on, if you really believe it and you see it as a positive, it's interesting because at the beginning, it's kind of like, oh, I don't want to sign somebody. I don't want to bring them, I'm just going to show them houses, and that's a good thing. But what I realized through the years is actually by sitting down and going over, here's what it is that we do, and actually asking up front, it formalizes the relationship.
Yep.
And they actually see you as a more higher authority, and there's more value that you're providing versus like a glorified door opener.
Correct.
Right. But getting clarity and selling yourself that's the best option is something that needs to happen. And I think a lot of agents haven't done that step of actually seeing that it is the best thing, because you're not doing something to them, you're doing something for them. And there's a different mindset there.
It's amazing. We're 25 years deep. This is my rules. And without fail, there's more than once a year where I will sit back and I will be the door opener that didn't take the next step. I asked the questions. I didn't follow up with the paperwork, and there'll be somebody that will surprise you. At the end of the day, if it wasn't a connection, but it just is a reinforcing factor that you go back to the fundamentals. Here's my not going beyond it. This is my box. And until we click all of these check marks, this is no other step 2. And every time that I follow that protocol, it also elevates us as a profession from a clarity perspective of who and what to expect, what is happening, where we are going to go through the journey. And then not saying I have all the answers, but I promise you I will not stop until I get the answers that I can get inside of the resources that I have around me. And the reality for this next period, or the next wave of realtors that are coming out there, because it has changed so much over the last 25 years, from buyer's agreements, from rep agreements, from threshold rates, etc. And now it's a scenario where, the way I present it is it's fantastic, because it is full transparency. Here's who you are, what we are, what's happening. And then in the event, I also will give a guarantee. If you are not satisfied with my listing or with my sale or whatever the case is, I have a termination. And it has to be unilateral. And I've used it more than I've had the buyers or the sellers use it, because I can just tell there's a space there where it's just not a fit. And for various reasons, but you have to be able to sit back and say, okay, this is working well. I'm happy and you're happy. Great. But the environment that it becomes unilateral, and we're not having both sides working together, then it's best for everybody to step away from it. And or it eliminates the cowboys who are going to run around there and just try to appease whatever person is out there, but not handling anything in a professional manner, which makes it tough for everybody to operate.
100%. I think that having a process first is super important for, whether you're working with a buyer or a seller, right from lead to, okay, sign agreement, so that there's steps and there's a process and you follow it each and every time. So even if you're off one day, you're still doing the right steps. And I think that's, like you said that, and I 100% agree. The other thing that I love and totally agree with as well is like having a like no BS guarantee that at any point, if you're not happy, you can cancel. And you had said as well, it's like I could cancel if this isn't working. I can cancel, and as well. You got to be careful how you say that. But the guarantee, it holds you actually accountable to deliver great service, and it takes a lot of pressure off of them. So I totally love that what you said there.
Yeah, it's a funny evolution because there's more than one situation where you have a binding agreement on both sides and you sit back and the reality is the one transaction is in scale. It's important. This is everybody's largest or most often their largest purchase decision. It's all made on emotion, our ability to justify the logic and working together ensure it's the right space. However, when you're in the middle of a transaction and you can feel heightened emotion in whatever the case is, and you have to be able to normalize it. But the one deal means nothing. It's the 15 other that are going to come in behind it, or the 25 other referrals that will now plant all of those seeds. And it is a scenario where there's fear of loss. And as everybody's in this transactional business, you want to sit back and say, and where we are, one deal, the average person is going to move every 5 to 7 years. So every 5 to 7 years, I can appease you. As you were saying earlier, there's 200 people. There's 15 of them that are going to move this year. How do I make sure I'm top of mind that person who you refer is going to be me? And not only because I'm going to take care of you and give you a hug and give you a card and a Starbucks that says, hey, thanks so much for thinking of me. On the flip side of it, know that I'm going to operate in the same level of professionalism and actually deliver on what I'm saying.
Yeah, so good. Okay, let's talk about real estate investing. You and I, we have both the genuine love of this. We definitely have that in common. Uh, why real estate investing, and why invest in real estate? And what advice would you have? Well, we'll start with the first question. Why real estate when it comes to investing?
See it, touch it, feel it. It's always been a scenario where inside of markets, inside of spaces, I was always fascinated with real estate. I was fascinated with houses, and I have still a genuine thrill of the hunt. And so there's the transaction aspect of it, which is part one. And then from my own perspective, you have to be able to walk the walk. And when you're guiding somebody who's trying to get into first level of investing, whether it is development, whether it is traditional single family residential, and or where I'm doing some larger things now that just become an evolution. But I'd like to say I went from here and there, and I just skipped the steps and was able to invest and learn everything on the other side of it. I'm a firm believer in doing everything the hard way and the wrong way and not listening to anybody else's advice, or at least that's what I continue to learn the hard way. There's so many books and so many people that have stood over my shoulder to say that, have you looked at this or thought of this? And you take bits and pieces of it. But as I was in my real estate journey, whether it was, my first couple of apartments where I'd rent out a room and then renting out rooms to friends, and then it went into some single family properties. I've had single family properties for 25 years. And then in between, there was a period where I was looking at fixing and flipping. And so I have bought and sold a number of properties. I haven't done that for quite some time, but there was a period where I was buying and selling quite a few properties. And then the scenario of time for money is a thing where you either have to be somebody who in my marketplace or with the resources that I had. If I'm going to be a flipper or contractor, you got to be able to manage those sites. But then the flip side of it, then my real estate business would suffer. So you're trying to find that balance. And so as I was growing the rental side of it, I was also looking at the construction side of it. I always enjoyed construction. I am blessed with two left feet. Again, my hammer, my skills are not necessarily a craftsman's space, but it's always been something I've enjoyed. So getting out there, smelling a new construction site, seeing sawdust would be part of it. And then from there, looking at the opportunity and seeing some of the successful individuals in my world who have bought and sold and or amassed their wealth from real estate, whether you want it from a simple perspective of a couple, three single family residential properties that keep up with an inflationary index that will hold rent. And let's say I were to position my money into that real estate pocket, and that's just going to be my retirement situation. It's simple. I can manage them great. and or if you want to start to scale and look at some development and you want to look at multifamily, etc., it just gives you more opportunities in the journey to try to put a feather in your hat. And then also I can say with, again, I'm still learning. There's still every single day I will get a curveball or learn something else that I didn't realize occurred, or the market changes and or a rule changes. But with that, you're able to say, yes, I have rode the wave and I've dealt with a tenant. I've had somebody do a midnight move. And now you build some thicker skin, and you build up some rules or some environments that say, these are the reasons why I do these things. Some of them are learned from firsthand, and some of them are just sitting back watching other people that have been able to trudge the path. And I am a big R&D guy, rip off and duplicate, Mr. Faris classic line, but it's so true. There's times where when you're younger, you have to have this ego-based space where it's like, I know what I'm doing, I can figure it out. And I'm now at the stage where I can promise you, I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm there to learn more in every single room. But the more questions I ask with people that have got a level of success equal to or greater than mine, I learn piles. And so that's what I want to do. And that's kind of where it started, to all the way up from single family to the next level of space. Now I've got a partnership and we're getting into multifamily with the goal of 500 units over the next 5 years.
Why multifamily? Why transition over from single family to multifamily?
So there's a couple different reasons. There is a diversity perspective. The single family is great, and so there's an investment level, and there's a certain requirement that you're going to get into residential, and then the single family, whether it's condo and or homes or whatever the case is. And as you layer up, there's some learning that goes with it, but it also hits an economies of scale where now there's management, there's costs, and then I am at a space right now, and I wish that I was independently wealthy, but it becomes time for money. And so as I was growing the real estate side of it on the single family, that's gained some equity. And now I've been able to play in some other arenas and done some land development, which we've done for about the last 10 years. And then just in the last couple, 3 years, looking at the multifamily, there's some opportunities inside of Canada that have something called the MLI Select program. So I'm sure you're familiar, but just gives you the opportunity to come in with less money down, looking at the opportunities of what you can now capsulate into multifamily X amount of doors and long-term returns. Everything looks way better in a vacuum. Everything looks great on a spreadsheet, but now we're living it and making the projects happen. And I've surrounded myself around a couple of guys that are my partners in this space, and yeah, it's going well.
Yeah, 100%. It's interesting because I cut my teeth with single family homes, buying them in like 2008 north of Toronto, and then, keep buying them all the way along. And then what happened was I started buying my office buildings because a lot of the old timer or not, a lot of the wise seniors that
Good
did
save.
really well
Yeah.
in business, I would ask them always. I'm like super hungry for like knowledge with these guys because they're like the super successful. Like, Mark, I always bought my building. I bought the building with my office building, and so I'm like, okay, well, I'll do that. It's kind of, what did you say? R&D, rip off and
Duplicate.
duplicate. That's good. So I'm like, okay, I'll do that. But then when I started learning about back, like, almost a decade ago, I started learning about multifamily and the
Yeah.
income approach and then the economies of scale. I was like, oh, I love this. If you can increase the net operating income by $100, like you could increase the value by like $24,000, right? So $100 a month. It's like, boom. I'm like,
Yeah.
whoa, this is amazing. This is like much more predictable.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting because about 3 years ago when Ontario pricing, it just deals wouldn't pencil out anymore. That's where we actually went down to started looking at Florida and Atlanta, Georgia, and Charleston, South Carolina, these markets down south, and we actually built a team to be able to go and buy these large buildings. And if you're buying like 100 unit plus building, all of a sudden you got full-time property management, you got leasing agent there, you got a maintenance tech on site, and you realize, holy geez, like these properties, and if they're a value add component to it as well, where you can go in and increase, $300 a month per unit, all of a sudden you do that on a larger scale unit size, all of a sudden, bam, you create millions of dollars, out of thin air very quickly. So I love where you're going, and it's interesting. A lot of the investors, they start kind of at single family, and then you start to see them gravitate to the larger unit count. You're not driving around 100 different properties looking after them, so to speak, right?
Well, there's something satisfying as well, where there's the needle where you now have property manager, you have on-site, you have purpose-built things and or environments where they are now built for the long haul. And depending on what your perspective is, it value add and or where we are just looking at from a space of sustainability. We're in-house building it ourselves. And then in addition, we're going to manage it ourselves. And then with that, I now have one person who I can call who can have everything roll out. And that gives us opportunities to control what the space is. And as we are continuing to step up, we're looking at every other thing that comes with it. We're looking at building for other individuals, and then the same scenario of building out our portfolio.
Well, you're setting a really good example for other agents to follow. And I think that at the end of the day, a decade down the road, I think we'll be looking back at today. I think all real estate agents will look back and say, I wish I would have bought more real estate. So I think this is a good conversation, and you're you're eating your own cooking and leading by example. So keep going down that path. I got three last questions here. I realize time is starting to move pretty quick here with you, Scott. So we gotta keep going here on your time. I got three rapid fire questions. We're going to wrap it up. You ready?
Yep, do it.
All right. Favorite book other than the $100 million models book behind you. What's your favorite book that's made the biggest impact in your career?
I got three. $100 million models behind. As of late, right now, my favorite book, which is ironic, sitting on my desk, but it is Mr. Martell is where is the classic Buy Back Your Time. And so the funny thing, I've read this thing 3 times last month. And the book I've read the most is The Psychology of Selling by Robert Cialdini.
Psychology of
Selling.
Yeah. So that was a separate book. So he's got like influence and then persuasion. And was that a third book?
No, it was the first. They've all been kind of derivatives.
They've been moved.
Yeah.
So good. Like some of the principles that he's taught, I mean, is genius. Love that.
He's fantastic. I still have his card. I saw him speak 20 years ago, and one of those individuals that it's almost like a ninja skill, and you just have to make sure you reference it because it is so true.
Yeah, exactly. So good. All right. Second question. 3 words that others that know you best would describe you as.
Energetic would be one.
Yeah.
Genuine. Jackass. Is that fitting?
Jackass. Fun.
Life's short. You gotta have fun.
Yeah, that's good. Fun. That's a good one. Very cool. Okay, and then final advice that you have for the listeners today.
Keep grinding. At the end of the day, you are going to figure it out. But the people that have the tenacity to stay in the game are going to outproduce everybody else, because unfortunately, a lot of people are 3 feet from gold, and there's lots of opportunity for us all to win.
So good. No, that's great. Well, Scott, if the listeners, they want to reach out, refer you business, whether they're buyers or sellers, or, maybe they want to join your team or have any questions, what's the best way they can reach out to you?
I've provided all my handles there, but love to have a chat in any fashion. Email, text message, any of the Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all of those adventures. I am reachable.
Perfect. Well, we'll make sure, just go to the show notes. We'll have that contact information there. Scott, really appreciate you coming on the show, and congratulations on all your success and continued success moving forward for you.
Hey, ditto. Thank you very much for the opportunity for the chat, and have a great day. Pleasure meeting you.
You too. All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening to the show. If you liked it, you can go ahead and subscribe to the channel or share with another real estate agent that you think will benefit from it. I love you guys, and keep on going full out.